the shadow of history falls heavy upon the streets of San Antonio once the sun dips below the horizon. The air grows thick with the humidity of southern Texas, and the weight of centuries of bloodshed and turmoil. Standing adjacent to the hallowed grounds of the Alamo sits a structure that has witnessed the rise of a city and the fall of many souls. The Menger Hotel is not merely a place of lodging for the weary traveler, but a vessel for the spirits of those who checked in and never truly checked out. Its limestone walls preserve the echoes of the past in a way that chills the blood of the living. Visitors often report a sensation of being watched from the moment they step through the ornate doors into the Victorian lobby. It is a feeling of unease that settles deep in the stomach and refuses to leave. Established in 1859 by William Menger, this historic landmark is the oldest continuously operating hotel west of the Mississippi River. The grandeur of its architecture speaks to a time of elegance and prosperity that defined the late 19th century. However, beneath the polished wood and crystal chandeliers lies a darker narrative that has festered for over 160 years. The hotel was built upon the site of Menger's Brewery, which was the first of its kind in Texas. The success of the brewery led to the need for accommodation for the many patrons who frequented the establishment. William Menger hired architects John Fries and J. H. Campman to design a building that would rival the finest hotels in the United States. They succeeded in creating a masterpiece, but they also created a labyrinth where the dead seemed to linger. The location of the hotel contributes significantly to its haunted reputation. It stands upon land that was once part of the Alamo mission complex, where the famous Battle of 1836 took place. The soil beneath the foundation is soaked with the blood of defenders and soldiers who perished in violent conflict. Many sensitive individuals claim that the trauma of the land seeps up into the floorboards of the hotel, infecting the atmosphere with sorrow and rage. It is not uncommon for guests to wake in the middle of the night to the sounds of distant cannon fire or the cries of dying men. These auditory hallucinations are dismissed by skeptics as the noise of the city, but those who hear them know deep down that they are listening to the reverberations of history. During the Civil War, the hotel served as a boarding house for Army officers and a hospital for the wounded. The groans of soldiers suffering from infection and amputation once filled the hallways that now host tourists and wedding parties. The energy of suffering is powerful, and it creates a residue that can remain trapped within stone and mortar. This residual energy is often cited as the cause for the sudden drops in temperature that plague certain corridors of the building. Maids and bellhops have reported walking through freezing cold spots in the middle of summer where the air feels as dense as water. It is as if an invisible barrier exists between the present day and the tragic past. One of the most famous figures associated with the Menger Hotel is Theodore Roosevelt, before he became the 26th President of the United States. He was a rough riding cavalryman who used the Menger Bar as his recruiting station. In 1898, Roosevelt sat at the Dark Cherry Wood Bar drinking and persuading cowboys and soldiers to join his volunteer cavalry for the Spanish-American War. The energy of those rowdy nights still permeates the room. Bartenders have reported glasses sliding across the counter on their own accord, and the smell of cigar smoke when no one is smoking. Some patrons claim to have seen a specter resembling Roosevelt sitting in a shadowy corner, watching the room with intense eyes. The architecture of the hotel itself lends itself to ghost stories. The 3-story Victorian lobby is an oval-shaped atrium rising to a stained glass skylight. The intricate iron railings and open corridors create a theater-like atmosphere where sound travels easily. However, it is the silence that is most disturbing. Late at night, when the lobby is empty, the silence is heavy and oppressive. It is in these moments that guests often catch glimpses of figures in period clothing moving along the upper balconies. These apparitions do not walk, but rather glide silently before vanishing into solid walls. They appear solid for a fleeting moment before dissolving into the shadows, leaving the witness questioning their own sanity. Among the many spirits that inhabit the Menger, the most well-known and perhaps the most tragic is that of Sallie White. Sallie was a chambermaid who worked at the hotel in the late 19th century. She was a dedicated employee who took pride in her work and was well liked by the staff and guests. However, her personal life was fraught with difficulty. She was married to a man who was consumed by jealousy and a violent temper. On the night of March 28, 1876, her husband entered the hotel in a rage. He confronted Sallie near the hotel entrance, and a heated argument ensued. The encounter turned deadly when he pulled out a pistol and shot her, leaving her bleeding on the floor. Sallie did not die immediately from her wounds. She clung to life for 2 days in one of the hotel rooms, while doctors tried in vain to save her. The hotel management paid for her funeral and burial, a testament to how much she was valued. Despite her tragic end, her spirit seems to have remained bound to the place where she worked. Over the decades, countless guests and staff members have reported seeing a young woman in a maid uniform from the 1800s carrying fresh towels down the hallways. Unlike other more malevolent entities, Sallie is described as a peaceful presence. She seems to be stuck in a loop, continuing her duties from beyond the grave. Encounters with Sallie usually occur in the Victorian wing of the hotel. Guests have reported emerging from the shower to find clean towels neatly folded on the bed when they had not requested any service. Others have seen her walking through the halls late at night her face obscured by the shadows. She wears a long gray dress and a white apron with a bandana tied around her hair. When approached, she does not speak or acknowledge the living. She simply fades away, as if she is a projection on a screen. Her presence is a reminder of the domestic violence that cut her life short and the dedication she held for her job. Another prominent spirit is that of Captain Richard King, the founder of the legendary King Ranch. Captain King was a frequent guest of the Menger Hotel and had a personal suite dedicated to his use. He was a man of great wealth and influence in Texas, and the Menger was his preferred residence when he visited San Antonio. In 1885, Captain King fell gravely ill. He chose to spend his final days in his suite at the Menger, surrounded by his family and doctors. He passed away in the very room that is now known as the King's Suite. His funeral was held in the hotel parlor, drawing mourners from all over the state. Since his death, Captain Richard King has seemingly refused to vacate his favorite room. Guests who stay in the King's Suite often report strange phenomena. The heavy wooden bed, which belonged to the captain himself, is the center of much activity. Some guests have reported seeing the indentation of a body forming on the bedspread, as if an invisible person is sitting down to rest. Others have felt a cold presence hovering over them while they sleep. The feeling is authoritative and commanding, fitting for a man of his stature. He is not a frightening spirit in the malicious sense, but his presence is undeniable and overwhelming. The elevator nearest to the King's Suite is also subject to the captain's spectral whims. It is notorious for stopping on the third floor without anyone pressing the button. The doors will open to an empty hallway and remain open for an unusually long time before closing. Maintenance crews have inspected the machinery countless times and found no electrical faults. The staff believe it is simply Captain King returning to his room after inspecting his cattle empire from the other side. There have been reports of a figure with a gray beard and a black hat walking through the closed doors of the suite late at night. One particularly chilling account involves a water pitcher in the King's Suite. A couple staying in the room claimed that they woke up in the middle of the night to a loud crashing sound. They turned on the lights to find the heavy ceramic water pitcher had been thrown across the room and shattered against the wall. Neither of them had been out of bed. The force required to throw such an object was significant. They felt an intense anger in the room and checked out, immediately refusing to spend another minute in the presence of whatever had caused the disturbance. This incident suggests that the captain can be territorial about his space. Beyond the specific personalities of Sallie White and Richard King, there is the enigma of the lady in blue. This apparition is often seen in the older sections of the hotel. She is described as a woman wearing a blue Victorian era dress with a cameo brooch at her throat. Unlike Sallie, who is busy working, the lady in blue is often seen sitting in the lobby or standing by windows, looking out with a profound sadness. No one knows her true identity or why she haunts the Menger. Some speculate she was a guest who received tragic news at the hotel, or perhaps a widow who died of heartbreak within its walls. The lady in blue is most frequently spotted near the central staircase. Witnesses describe her as looking entirely solid and lifelike until she is approached. As someone draws near to ask if she needs assistance, she dissolves into a mist. There is a melancholy aura surrounding her that can affect those who see her. People report feeling a sudden wave of depression or grief wash over them when she is near. It is an emotional haunting that leaves a lasting impact on the psyche. Her silent vigil continues year after year, a mystery that history has failed to record. The connection to the Alamo brings a military aspect to the hauntings. The Menger Hotel sits on land that saw fierce fighting during the battle. Guests in rooms facing the Alamo Plaza have reported seeing soldiers marching through their rooms. These are not full-bodied apparitions, but often appear as transparent figures or shadows. They are usually dressed in the buckskins of the Texian defenders or the uniforms of the Mexican army. The sounds of boots marching on floorboards are heard even in carpeted rooms. It is a replay of the past that refuses to be silenced by the passage of time. One guest reported a terrifying encounter in a room on the second floor. He woke up paralyzed, unable to move his arms or legs. This phenomenon, known as sleep paralysis, is often associated with supernatural assaults. He saw a dark shadow figure standing at the foot of his bed. The figure was tall and broad, wearing what looked like a military uniform. It leaned over him, and he felt a pressure on his chest, as if a heavy weight were crushing the breath out of him. The air in the room turned freezing cold. He struggled to scream, but no sound came out. The entity stared at him with empty black voids for eyes. The encounter lasted for what felt like hours, but was likely only a few minutes. As the first light of dawn crept through the curtains, the pressure lifted, and the shadow figure dissipated like smoke. The guest was left shaking and terrified, covered in a cold sweat. He later learned that many others had experienced similar phenomena in that specific wing of the hotel. It is believed to be the spirit of a soldier who died in agony and is trapped in a state of perpetual confusion and anger. He seeks to share his pain with the living who occupy his resting place. The kitchen of the Menger Hotel is another hotspot for paranormal activity. Chefs and kitchen staff have reported utensils moving on their own and pots falling off hooks when no one is near. The smell of food cooking has been reported in the middle of the night when the kitchen is closed and the stoves are cold. In the early 1900s, a chef was allegedly murdered in the kitchen during a dispute with another staff member. His spirit is said to haunt the area, causing mischief and scaring new employees. The staff have learned to respect the unseen presence, often announcing their arrival to avoid startling the ghost. The Menger Bar, with its dark wood paneling and beveled mirrors, holds its own collection of specters. Patrons sitting at the bar have reported feeling a tap on the shoulder, only to turn around and find no one there. Drinks have been known to slide off the tables, as if pushed by an invisible hand. The most unnerving phenomenon is the reflection in the mirrors. People have reported seeing faces looking back at them that are not their own. These faces are often pale and gaunt, appearing for a split second before vanishing. It is as if the mirrors are portals to another dimension, capturing the souls of those who once drank there. Housekeepers have perhaps the most frequent contact with the spirits. Many have quit their jobs after terrifying encounters in the guest rooms. They report beds that have been made suddenly becoming unmade, with the sheets torn off. Televisions turn on and off by themselves, blasting static at high volume. In one instance, a maid was cleaning the bathroom when she saw the reflection of a man standing behind her in the mirror. When she turned around, the room was empty. She refused to enter that room again alone. The management acknowledges the stories, but tries to keep them quiet to avoid scaring away timid guests. The fourth floor of the hotel is particularly notorious. It was added later in the hotel's history, but seems to have absorbed the haunted energy of the lower levels. Guests staying on the fourth floor often report the sound of children running and laughing in the hallways late at night. When they open their doors to check, the hallway is long and empty. The laughter seems to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. It is a disembodied joy that feels out of place in the silent hotel. Some believe these are the spirits of children who died of illness in the hotel during the epidemics of the 19th century. There is a story of a bride who checked into the Menger for her honeymoon in the early 20th century. Her husband was killed in a tragic accident shortly after their arrival. Consumed by grief, she hanged herself in her room. Her spirit is said to remain in the bridal suite, eternally waiting for a reunion that will never happen. Guests in this suite have reported hearing the sound of weeping coming from the closet. The temperature in the room often drops drastically, and a floral perfume scent manifests without a source. It is a heartbreaking haunting, born of love and loss. Skeptics often try to debunk these stories as the product of old plumbing settling foundations and active imaginations. However, the sheer volume of consistent reports from people who have no prior knowledge of the hauntings is difficult to dismiss. Police dogs brought into the hotel for security sweeps have been known to whimper and refuse to enter certain rooms. Animals are often more sensitive to the paranormal than humans, and their reactions suggest that there is something genuinely unsettling present. The behavior of these trained animals lends credibility to the claims of supernatural activity. The basement of the hotel, which is strictly off limits to guests, is said to be the most active area of all. It is a dark maze of storage rooms and old tunnels. Staff members hate going down there alone. There are rumors of shadows that detach themselves from the walls and follow people. Voices are heard whispering in the dark, calling out names. The basement sits closest to the limestone foundation, which acts as a battery, storing the electromagnetic energy of the spirits. It is the heart of the haunting, where the energy is most concentrated and volatile. One former employee shared a story of being locked in the walk-in freezer in the basement. The heavy door swung shut, and the latch engaged, trapping him inside. He banged on the door and shouted for help, but the thick walls muffled his cries. As the cold began to seep into his bones, he saw a figure standing in the corner of the freezer. It was a man in an old-fashioned butcher's apron, covered in blood. The figure pointed at the door, and the latch suddenly clicked open. The employee rushed out terrified, but grateful. He believed the ghost of the murdered chef had saved him. The creeping dread of the Menger Hotel is not just about seeing ghosts, but about feeling the weight of the past. It is a psychological haunting as much as a physical one. The atmosphere affects the mood of those who stay there. Arguments seem to break out more easily in certain rooms. People feel sudden bouts of irrational anger or sadness. It is as if the emotions of the dead are bleeding into the living. This influence is subtle and insidious, making guests question their own feelings and reactions. Ghost hunters and paranormal investigators flock to the Menger hoping to capture evidence of the afterlife. Electronic voice phenomena, or EVP recordings captured in the hotel, often feature whispers and commands. Photos taken in the lobby frequently show orbs of light and inexplicable mists. One famous photo appears to show a transparent figure sitting in a chair in the lobby reading a newspaper. The figure is barely visible, but the outline of a suit and hat can be distinguished. These pieces of evidence tantalize those searching for proof of the paranormal. Despite the fear, the Menger Hotel remains a popular destination. People are drawn to the macabre and the mysterious. They want to experience the thrill of the unknown. The hotel embraces its history, offering ghost tour and acknowledging its haunted reputation. However, for the staff who work the night shift, the hauntings are not attraction, but a reality they must deal with. They walk the halls briskly, keeping their eyes straight ahead, avoiding the dark corners where the shadows seem to move. The Menger stands as a monument to San Antonio history and a sanctuary for its restless dead. It is a place where the barrier between worlds is thin. The spirits of Sallie White, Captain King, and the Rough Riders are as much a part of the hotel as the bricks and mortar. They are the permanent residents who have watched the world change outside their windows. while they remain trapped in their own time. To stay at the Menger is to invite the possibility of an encounter with the unknown. As you check out of the Menger Hotel and step back into the bright Texas sun, the feeling of dread may linger. You might find yourself checking over your shoulder or listening for footsteps that are not there. The hotel has a way of leaving a mark on its guests. The stories of the dead become a part of your own memory. You leave wondering if the eyes you felt watching you from the balcony were merely your imagination, or if you were truly in the presence of something beyond the grave. The Menger keeps its secrets well, but it never lets you forget that you were a guest in a house of spirits.